And this is to allow you to vote. Because we have a lot of questions up here that we want to be able to kind of poll the audience and find out what your thoughts and opinions are and where we're going, and sort of have a discussion about that, what we think are the important things that we need to be thinking about, the research directions that we need to go, the unanswered questions. So we're going to talk about what we know, and more probably what we need to know about those occupational hazards of our working dogs. So we're going to briefly talk about what is a working dog. We're going to test your knowledge. And then we're going to focus a lot on those job-specific hazards. So 51% of people thought it was a lack of proprioception. And if you could look closely, the dog was on the ladder with his front feet and his hind feet were dangling in the air. And maybe that was an action shot, but mostly it probably wasn't, because that dog is working with us now and he has no idea where his back feet are. And so that's a potential injury type of mechanism that they just kind of claw their way up that ladder with no idea of where the back feet are. And so that was his problem. He was definitely flexing his carpi, but he did not have any kind of, or extending his carpi, but it wasn't hyperextension. He was just putting all of his weight on his front legs, and so it might have looked like that, but the big problem there was those back legs just floating in the air. For the service dogs, this was a study funded by the Laura J. Niles Foundation, and we're looking to further analyze that in a prospective study with Dr. Serpell, who's going to be on the stress panel, and they were looking at reasons for retirement. Loss of energy in old age, that's a reasonable reason to retire, but when we start talking about anxiousness and fearfulness, that starts to be a concern. And so how can we improve the quality of life of these dogs and how they're working, and making sure that they aren't having excessive fear or anxiety or aggression or anything else that's really looking like a stress type of response. All right, so let's talk about our police dogs again. Compared to pet German Shepherds, what is most likely to be found in the police dogs? Toxins, diarrhea, back problems, respiratory disease, or GDV, which is bloat, gastric dilatation of volvulus. All right, so there's a lot of different things that we can do, and most people felt like early environmental exposure was a big factor. And we definitely believe that early environmental exposure is going to impact how that dog develops. We also think there's an impact of training style and genetic selection. We try not to rely on luck. So there's a lot of things that we can do to impact the success of the dogs. And so what that leads us to is our attempt to look at the genetics. And so we have the AKC Reunite Detection Dog DNA Bank, where we're looking at the genetics of successful detection dogs. Is there something that we can see genetically? And then when we take that, we also have to take into account the environment and the training that's gone into that. But if we can look at that baseline genetics, maybe we can move things forward and increase the success of the dogs.